What do you say, everyone? Great to have you guys here for Monday Night Quarterback as I adjust my view, hanging out with Clint Lamb. I'm Mick Gillespie here on the BamaInsider YouTube channel. Our show is presented by Westgate Luxury Condominiums. We get together with you every Monday night and we talk about the Crimson Tide. Like and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up as you hang out with us tonight. Hit the bell so anytime we go live with a show, you guys will be a part of it. What's up, dude? How you been?
I'm doing fantastic, Mick. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. I it's Mardi Gras season down here. So
getting a little wild yet?
Well, I mean, not New Orleans. I mean, it's tame. The first Mardi Gras I went to was in New Orleans, and I think they've outlawed a lot of the stuff I saw back then. So it's just moon pies and and junk trinkets that you want and a lot of beads.
Yeah. Have you collected any beads yet?
Oh yeah, dude. Look, I found this out the other day. I was out in front of the garage in Mobile for one of the parades. So I could go in, get a beer, come out, watch the parade, go to the bathrooms. Great. And someone was like, hey, if you get 8 pounds of beads, you can trade them to Krispy Kreme for a dozen donuts, So I was like, oh, it's a win-win right now.
How many is 8 pounds of beads, though?
I don't even know. But I'm telling you, like, there are oh my gosh, man, there's so many beads that you get pelted with, and moon pies and, stuffed animals and footballs and stuff. It's really fun. And they take a lot of time to like do the floats and, and all that stuff. So yeah, it was pretty good. You got to come down and hang out. Check it out.
That sounds great. For the Sugar Bowl, going down to New Orleans, and they had a media party that was a good time. Got to do the whole beads thing and just have fun up on a balcony. Just haven't done that kind of thing since college. So ever since I got a little taste of it, man, I want to do it again. So yeah. I'm definitely going to have to come join you.
Yeah, look, anytime too, man. I mean, we'd love it. I mean, we got tomorrow is Fat Tuesday. So I think that's kind of like the my light adjusted even. That's kind of the last day of it. And then and then it's Ash Wednesday, and then you got to give up something for Lent and all that stuff. So,
what are you giving up?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Something that I like.
And then I just end up not picking anything. I'm always trying to be realistic with myself, and I'm like, I mean, I got to be honest. I'm not giving up any of this stuff. So I do it. It is what it is.
Yeah. Hey, comment section. You guys tell us what you're giving up for Lent as we talk to you on the show, and it's great to see all you guys, Mike and Bob, and everyone that hangs out with us each week here on the show. Gil and Bo, all you guys, I really appreciate it. And thank you for being here on the show. It's brought to you by Westgate Luxury Condominiums, westgateal.com, right there next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. A bead's throw from Bryant-Denny to the Skygate Club. That's where we do our post-game shows, right?
That's slick, Nick. I like that.
I like that. Yeah, it's like I got hit in the eye with a moon pie on Saturday, but it didn't stop me. Like, it didn't stop me.
Hey, nothing can stop you, Nick.
No, kept pounding the drinks and grabbing stuff. So, all right, well, let's talk about what we got going on. This used to be a slow time of year for Alabama football, but it's not. I mean, there's always something to talk about now. And so we're kind of gearing up towards spring practice. As you assess the spring practice, what are you looking forward to seeing the most?
Man, yeah, I guess I think Jimmy told me earlier that we're a month away.
Wow.
So yeah, it's going by pretty quick. It's been almost 2 months since we've seen Alabama on a football field, which is kind of wild. But there's a lot to look forward to as far as the spring's concerned. Last year it's like you got Bryce Young as your starting quarterback. That's already been solidified. You've kind of got your defensive leaders in Jordan Battle and Will Anderson Jr. and just really across the board, both your coordinators are back. So there's not a whole lot of changes that are being made to this philosophy and building relationships and all that stuff. So I think that all of that stuff's gone. I mean, you've got a quarterback battle that's going to be going on. You've got a new offensive coordinator. So really everybody is in that quarterback battle. The two true freshmen, Eli Holstein and Dylan Lonergan, they're both going to get opportunities as well. But you also got Ty Simpson, you got Jalen Milroe certainly. So we've seen them a little bit. We get to see a lot more of Ty Simpson. I think that's exciting. Would be curious to see how Jalen Milroe has grown from last year. I think the running back rooms and the wide receiver rooms are really interesting, really across the board. I mean, you lose Jahmyr Gibbs, but you got these two, very impressive freshmen coming in the running back room, and then you got so many different guys returning in the wide receiver room. I mean, granted, they've lost a ton of guys to the transfer portal,
Right.
but at the same time, I mean, you got so many, still 4 or 5 guys at least who saw action last year and were kind of a part of that rotation. You're also adding a guy like Malik Benson. And then also, just with Tommy Reese and the offense he's bringing in, I want to see how they use the tight ends.
Right.
Because, we think it's going to be a huge part of the offense. I want to see just how much, they get targeted during the spring game. What are we hearing as far as the buzz is concerned? You've got the early enrollees, Caleb Downs. How does he look? Caden Proctor, James Smith, like I said, Justice Haynes. So really across the board, a lot of interesting storylines. And then on defense, what is Kevin Steele going to bring? There's some familiarity there, but Alabama's wanting to try to get back to some of their old ways on that side of the football and just being physically dominant. And what is Kevin Steele going to bring to help, get them there? So there's a lot of great storylines this spring.
Yeah, it's exciting. Go back to the running backs. I'm just curious because there are a couple of big time, freshmen that are coming in. But what about the guys returning from last year? Who do you see being the person they depend upon the most out of the running back?
Well, that's what's so interesting about the running back room to me, and why I'm fascinated to see how it ends up shaking out, because I really think there's an argument that can be made for pretty much all these guys, like all 5 of them. I do think that Jace McClellan is going to be the lead back. I think he's going to be the first guy out there. He's going to be your starter. I think he's got some, receiving ability. He can run the football. Obviously, I thought he did better with a heavier workload last year. So I'll be curious to see, do they feed him a little bit more, like that with, Jahmyr Gibbs no longer being in the backfield, or do we see, them to continue to utilize the committee approach? But Roydell Williams is a guy who's got plenty of experience.
Right.
Jam Miller used to be Jamarian, but now he's going by Jam according to the roster. First of all, it's a phenomenal name.
Hey, and he was good in those spots we saw him last year.
Oh, he was fantastic. Yeah. And granted, it was mop-up duty. It's not like it was, with the game on the line, you got to get, a yard or two, and he's out there, grinding things out. There's nuances to playing, in those live game situations where it actually still matters that, we haven't really got to see him in. But every time he's been on the field, he's looked extremely impressive. And so you've got him as well. I think he deserves more touches. I think he's going to be a guy who climbs the depth chart, maybe starting in the spring. And then you've got the 2 true freshmen who I think, both of those guys are capable of handling early touches. And Haynes is the one that's already on campus. So, yeah, it's a very interesting position as we head into the spring.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, we could sit here and talk about this running backs, quarterback. I love watching Ty Simpson in the video there throw the football. I mean, I think he's going to have a really good year. And then you wonder, wide receiver wise, we talked about the offensive line on the show a lot. And so those will be things we'll be keeping an eye on. This is going to be one of the most interesting 8A games and spring practices that we've had anyway in a long time. And I'm trying to think Jalen Hurts' freshman year was the last time the quarterback battle has been this open.
I would say maybe following that national championship to his freshman year. It felt like Tua was going to be the guy, but it was still a competition going on. And I mean, if you remember correctly, we went all the way through the season, and then after that first game, Maria Taylor ended up asking Nick Saban to kind of evaluate.
Oh yeah.
And he completely lost it and was like, I'm not going to say so I mean, that was a quarterback battle as well, but
yeah, different battle though. I mean, of guys who haven't played, and it's like, you just don't really know what you got. And I'm going to give you a tip right now. When Nick Saban is aggravated like that, or he's agitated, this is just one of the Mickisms. And you know this, cause I nail him. When something's going on behind the scenes, when he gets agitated like that.
Oh yeah. And really when you look at it's all the key positions. I mean, it's who's going to be the defensive, field general. Is it going to be Deontay Lawson?
Right.
He seems like the most logical guy to step up, but they're also bringing in, Tresman Marshall, who I think's got a lot of that leadership ability and experience in a similar system. Do they want Lawson to play the Mike or the Will? I think depending on where they want him to play, that's going to determine, who that other starter is going to be next to him. But, inside linebacker is a very important position in Alabama's defense, and positions like star and safety and, one of the cornerback spots. And where does Tyrion Arnold fit in? Does he stay on the outside? Does he move to, star? Does he move to safety? Where does Malachi Moore play? And then on offense, I mean, the most important position on the field and your quarterback, that's something that's still yet to be determined. Does J.C. Latham kick over to the left side after playing right tackle, or does he stay at right tackle? Who ends up starting, your 5 offensive linemen? Is Caden Proctor going to be ready to go? Wide receiver, running back. So just all these different positions. And then you got new coordinators mixed in there as well. You got, all these different offensive minds who have been brought in to help, right the ship on offense. How does it all come together? It's just going to be a very fascinating spring.
Yeah, I cannot wait. I mean, I'm as excited about this spring as I ever have. And I mean, a lot of questions are going to be answered, and that's if Alabama's going to be able to maintain this dynasty status. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Nick Saban and his staff are able to do with all of this young talent and guys that are going to have an opportunity to play that different years they might not. But this year they're going to have an opportunity. All right, let's switch gears a little bit before we talk recruiting with Joseph Hastings. And guys, as you hang out with us on the Bama Insider YouTube channel, like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Monday Night QB back on the air again. Hey, it's a holiday, but that does not stop us. So make sure that you say thanks for being here on President's Day and give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Potential rule changes. And I think this is really important, because potential rule changes to speed the game up, and maybe that's why you better be ready to run the football again.
Well, in today's college football, I mean, it has become an even bigger problem because you're throwing the football a lot more. You got a lot more, clock stoppage. Back in those early 2010 days, late 2000s, where Alabama was hammering the football with Mark Ingram and Trent Richardson and Eddie Lacy, and all those guys, this wasn't as big of an issue. But, the one solution that I haven't heard anybody bring up, anybody that's talking about, changes. I mean, a lot of fans and stuff have brought it up, but just anybody that's a decision maker. You haven't heard anything about commercials getting cut down. They're going to get those ad revenue dollars.
Come on, Clint. Are you suggesting that the SEC network and CBS and ESPN actually cut the commercial breaks?
I think, hey, everything needs to be on the table. We're talking about trying to find solutions. We've got, clock continuing to run after an incompletion, after the ball gets reset. Like, a couple of these, they make sense. The consecutive timeouts to stop from icing kickers and wasting time that way. The no untimed down at the end of the first quarter or the third quarter, that makes sense. I don't think that's a big problem. Having the NFL rule where the clock continues to run after, unless you get after first downs, unless it's inside the 2-minute warning, I guess is what they'll call it. I mean, at least we're used to that with the NFL, but that number 4, we're getting a little bit out there. And I don't know, I think the biggest problems are, I mean, obviously commercials are a huge problem for fans. That's not going to change though.
No.
But another thing that's kind of prolonging some of these games, what are they doing about the fake injuries? Like, I don't know if there's anything you really can do.
Good point.
I mean, that's something that I haven't really seen get brought up at all. And it's like, like I said, I mean, I understand that you're not going to mess around with players' safety. So even if they are faking, you're not going to say you're faking. We're going to move on. Like, you're going to take every potential injury seriously. So I don't know what the solution would be, but I mean, that's another problem that's really slowing down the game, nowadays.
Yeah. And they just don't have an answer for it. Now, I think if you're injured and the game has to stop because of you, then you should be out that entire drive.
I do think that would solve some of the issues. And it's the guys, even in those instances, maybe there are certain guys where you're willing to do that with.
Right.
You planned on subbing a guy in. And this gives you a great opportunity to maybe it's one of those big guys, for example, if it's a Jaheim Otis, Alabama didn't really play this game, but let's say they did. If Jaheim Otis is kind of getting winded or whatever, hey, take a dive. You'll get to come out for the rest of the drive. We were wanting to do that with you anyways, so it just gives us an opportunity to make a substitution. I don't really, like I said, I don't know what the solution is to this problem, but it's a major problem, and we're talking about doing all these other things. Let's at least try to address it in some way.
Yeah, right. Well, Alabama hasn't done it, and Nick Saban won't do it. I think he should do it because it's part of the game now. You watched Tennessee last year. They're falling over on defense to slow Alabama down, and then we're standing toe to toe, can't get guys in. Look, to me, I mean it's part of the game until they make it not part of the game. But you're right. You're exactly right on the most important thing they could do to speed the game up, and they don't even touch it.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I mean, the incompletion side of it, that is, a new passing era, that is slowing down the game. I understand making that adjustment, but there are some other things that I feel like they could maybe be working on that you're just not seeing. Like I said, I don't think any of those things that you see up on the screen, I don't think any of them are ridiculous except for number 4. I would not be for that at all. I like the fact that college, they do the first down thing where it stops the clock. And I think that's really important for the end of games and stuff, but it also prolongs it. And at least it wouldn't be some completely crazy, never, seen it before style of play where it's going to completely shock fans. We've seen it work in the NFL for, forever. So right. I don't think that would be completely ridiculous, but I think the one that everybody's pretty much on board with would be the first one. And then I think just as you work down the list, they get more and more progressively. I disagree with them just a little bit more. And number 4, that better not happen.
Yeah, I hear you, brother. Well, what are you working on at BamaInsider.com? And I got to remind everyone that's hanging out with us. First off, David, get well soon, man. And thank you for being here on the show, as always. And don't forget, Clint Lamb and the entire crew are on constantly at BamaInsider.com. That includes the message board with Jimmy Stein, who's coming up later, and Clint. We talk recruiting with Andrew Bone, the guru of recruiting, and Joseph Hastings. We got a lot more coming too, by the way. Wink, wink. This thing's getting bigger and better, changing the face of basically team sites, and we want you guys to be a part of it. $29.99 until August 31st. Or $9.99 a month. What are you working on at BamaInsider.com?
Got a lot of stuff going on right now. Been doing the position breakdowns and kind of reflecting back on what we learned in 2022 and kind of what we expected and how it ended up playing out, and then kind of looking forward and what fans can expect, in 2023. But we also had the Monday mailbag, got some great questions from our subscribers over at the Talking Champions message boards. So I was able to get a couple of those answered. And I typically, like to spend 400, 500, 600 words on all of them. And, if I could ask a question, I know you don't want a 1 or 2 word answer. So I try to really dive in and, really get into the thick of things with you, to the best of my ability. But so, had that come out today. Later on this week, got more position previews and just starting to look ahead to the spring. Like I said, a lot of interesting storylines. Going to have an article talking about 5 things that we want to see from Alabama in 2023. Think that's going to be fun. So the train's not slowing down. I don't care what part of the offseason we're in.
Awesome. Well, Clint, always great to see you, my man. Let's do it again soon, like
Absolutely,
next Monday.
Bro. Let's do it, man. Good to see you, buddy.
You too, man. That's Clint Lamb. You guys know him from BamaInsider.com. Guys, like and subscribe as you hang out with us here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. It's Monday Night Quarterback. I'm Mick Gillespie. Follow me at Broadcaster Mick. Always love talking Alabama, and that's what we do at BamaInsider.com. Let's get into some recruiting now. Let's throw him up on the screen. He is always on the scene, it seems like. There he is, Joseph Hastings. What's up, dude?
Mick, I'm doing excellent today. How about yourself? How's it going?
It's good, man. It's good. A very, kind of a holiday Monday. Jake's off from school, so a lot of football throwing in the backyard today. I'm a little sore, to be honest with you.
Hey, that's awesome. That's a great way to spend it. I'm a little bit sore too. I did leg day today, which is not a fun day. Wish I could skip that, but great President's Day sounds like for both of us being sore.
No doubt. Well, let's talk some Alabama. A lot going on right now. There always is in recruiting. And I guess the next big thing is March 4th. It's Junior Day. Who do you expect to be in town for it?
Yeah, so first off, I was able to confirm that 5-star Alabama commit Jalen Mbakwe will be in town. I know he's already visited January 14th, keeps on reaffirming that he's locked in with the Crimson Tide, but it's always good when you get a top commit coming in town for a big event like this one here. You're going to have Dylan Stewart, the number one edge in the country, top 5 overall prospect on On3. You have a few in-state guys coming in town as well, like Jordan Ross and Bradley Shaw, a couple of recent offers for the Crimson Tide. You have some other guys coming in too, like T'Anthony Smith. He's a 4-star linebacker out of Texas. Jamonte Waller, he's a rising edge out of Mississippi. And a couple of 2025s, including an in-state offensive lineman, Micah DeBose, who's currently committed to Georgia. I just confirmed, been on the phone a lot recently, that Jordan Lockhart committed to Ole Miss. He plans on being there in attendance for that event. And that's pretty big. He's coming all the way from California out there, and he's going to be able to meet, the new position coaches with, Coach Austin Armstrong and also defensive coordinator Kevin Steele. That's always important. That's kind of the main storyline when you talk about these recruiting visits this spring, is them being able to meet the new coordinators and some of these new position coaches, get to build upon that relationship with them, even though they may have been on campus a few times already, like a Jalen Mbakwe. He's been on campus like 8, 9, 10 times over the past, 14, 16 months. When you look at his recruiting profile there, it's going to be important for him to meet Kevin Steele, who is recruiting him at Miami. It's going to be important for him to, just get that face-to-face contact. So, like a Sterling Dixon, he visited January 14th, and, he's somebody who's high on Austin Armstrong, getting to meet him. That's important. So, that's going to be the main storyline you kind of hear with these spring visits is, what do these kids think about the new coordinators, the new position coaches? Just what are the takeaways from them?
Yeah, good point too. And, much different looking coaching staff as far as the coordinators go. But as long as Nick Saban is there, it's always going to be his program. I mean, we've seen this before, and it has worked out for him every time, right? So hoping that continues, expecting that to continue. Talking about prospects, which prospects have scheduled official visits to Alabama already?
Yeah, so you saw on the front page there for BamaInsider.com, I reported earlier today that Weston Davis, big-time offensive lineman out of Texas, number 4 offensive tackle on the On3 consensus. He scheduled his official visit to Alabama in June. Daniel Calhoun has also scheduled his official visit to Alabama in June as well. He's somebody who's a pretty familiar name for Alabama fans. He's been on the Crimson Tide's radar for some time, made multiple visits last year, planning on being there in the spring as well too. So, those are a couple offensive linemen to pay attention to, and they've already got official visits set up. We've heard of another one that has been scheduled too that can't report on it just yet. I think we'll be able to release the details tomorrow. But I think it's kind of interesting. You're starting to see that these summer official visits are already starting to be scheduled. How much of that is Alabama pushing for it versus how much is, the recruits themselves? Kind of remains to be seen. I think it may be more so the recruit side of things, just because, Calhoun had multiple visits set up, including one to Georgia from the official visit standpoint. So I think it's important, though. June was a huge month for Alabama in the 2023 cycle last year. When you talk about some of the guys that they brought in who eventually were a part of the class, Cole Adams, Justice Haynes, Caleb Downs, Wilkin Formby. The list goes on and on in terms of the guys that they brought in for official visits in June last year and who ended up committing to them over the summer. I think they had 17 or 18 total commitments from June until August. A lot of them had officially visited during June. So, it's never too early to start paying attention to it. We're kind of in that weird space right now with 2024 recruiting where, we still want to talk about 2023, those impact freshmen, especially as we get into spring practice, want to see how they kind of look versus, okay, let's start caring about 2024, especially when Alabama's gone off to such a hot start in 2024. 4 prospects committed, all 4 of them in the top 65 overall on three's rankings. It's kind of a lot of that excitement is already there, and you're probably not expecting a commitment anytime soon. So it is a weird stage right now with 2024 recruiting. But these spring visits, official visits being set up, I think that's going to get people a little bit more hyped up and excited about 2024 recruiting, get to know some of these big names.
As you hang out with us on the Bama Insider YouTube channel, guys, like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up, hit the bell so you know when we're live. And great to see you in the comments section, Tank. Good to see you. Gil, thank you for the shout out there, man. One of the best shows ever. Mick and the fellas. And look, coming up next, the next fella is going to be Jimmy Stein. He's the dean of On 3, and he's going to talk to us about everything going on in the world of Alabama. Chris Daughtry behind the scenes on a Monday night. So great to have all you guys here with us. All right, look, we love it when Alabama flips someone, right? When they say, hey, I'm going to Georgia. And then all of a sudden at the last minute, they come to Alabama, or they're going to Notre Dame, and then we pull, a coup on them. Give me some of these flip targets for Alabama.
I'm actually going to start off because I did a piece on this a couple of days ago, 5 noteworthy flip targets for Alabama in 2024. And this isn't the only 5 that they're pursuing who are committed elsewhere. I'm going to start off with Jeremiah Smith because Ron talked about him in the comments. So I spoke with Jeremiah a couple of weeks ago, and just for people who don't know, Jeremiah Smith may arguably be the best player in the country. I mean, he is very special. Wide receiver committed to Ohio State, number 2 overall on the 2024 On 3 consensus. Yeah, Alabama's kind of in contact here. They've picked up a little bit of communication. They stopped by his school last month. Travaris Robinson did. T-Rob is primarily the one in contact with Smith right now. He does want to see that communication pick up a little bit before he takes a visit to Alabama, but it doesn't seem like the Crimson Tide will be completely shut off from potentially receiving another visit from him down the line. He just wants to kind of see a little bit more communication on that end. As for other targets that they're pursuing, Ellis Robinson, the 4th, he's currently committed to Georgia. A little bit of a surprise commitment, if you ask me, just because he had released his top 5 on New Year's Eve and then ended up committing to Georgia just a few weeks later on February 1st. Yeah, I think that this is one that you're still going to have to pay attention to. He recently told Bama Insider Director of Recruiting Andrew Bone that he plans on taking an official to Alabama, still in touch with T-Rob. So he's one to absolutely pay attention to. Sticking with Georgia commits, DeMarcus Riddick is probably one of the bigger names in terms of Alabama 2024 targets. The Crimson Tide didn't actually offer him by the time he had committed to Georgia in November. And I drew a little bit of a comparison here to Rock Montgomery, formerly Raquez McElderry. He committed to Georgia in November 2021, didn't have an Alabama offer at the time of his commitment, and then ended up receiving an offer and Alabama flipped him. Maybe the Crimson Tide will be on this kind of path. It kind of remains to be seen what the interest level is here, but the blueprint is there in terms of flipping an in-state prospect who was previously committed to Georgia but didn't have an Alabama offer at the time. That blueprint is there. A couple of other ones that we mentioned in the piece as well were De'Aaron Evans, Texas A&M commitment, and Miles Graham, a Florida commitment. You can read that piece on BamaInsider.com. But there's definitely some top flip targets for Alabama right now. Just as schools are pursuing Alabama's current commits. Jalen Mbakwe visited LSU last month. Perry Thompson visited Auburn. Wouldn't be surprising if either of them and maybe a couple of others in the class take official visits elsewhere or take visits elsewhere. Once again, though, Alabama kind of withstood that storm last year with Justice Haynes visiting Georgia, Caleb Downs visiting Georgia and Ohio State, and Tony Mitchell officially visiting Auburn, Texas A&M, and held on to all 3. So Alabama's used to this. They're accustomed to it. And just as they're trying to flip prospects, other teams are trying to flip their commits too.
Yeah, been there, done that through the recruiting battles over the years. And Nick Saban, the best in the business at that. Guys, BamaInsider.com. You can get all the latest on recruiting with Joseph and Andrew Bone and the entire On 3 network, which is awesome. I mean, you're talking about the best of the best at evaluating talent, having boots on the ground all across the country. Guys with a ton of experience or guys that are up and coming and that are just the best in the field. And we want you to be a part of that. $29.99 right now until August 31st. Anything else that people should know about that you're working on? I mean, you talked a lot about the different projects that you've posted on BamaInsider.com already, but anything else that you want people to know about?
Yeah, so we're catching up with some recent offers this week, trying to see who's scheduled to visit Alabama March 4th. But my big thing is I'm going to be heading out to Atlanta on Saturday for the Under Armour All-America Camp. That's an event I get really excited about because last year you saw Justice Haynes, Caleb Downs, a couple of other guys in the Atlanta area. Always a lot of top talent. And then I'll also be at Under Armour Orlando the weekend after. So a little bit of a couple busy stretch here, a couple weekends, but I'm very excited about it. Camp season is very much underway, and I'll still be going out to 7-on-7s too, like I did earlier this month. So definitely be sure to stay tuned to Bama Insider, because we will have a lot of content. I can promise you that, a lot of content on the recruiting front.
Cannot wait. Cannot wait. Always great hanging out with you, Joseph. And let's do it again next Monday.
Mick, looking forward to it, man. Thank you.
Hey, great job. Joseph Hastings, part of our Bama Insider crew that covers recruiting, as good or better than anyone's ever done it. And then it's going to just keep on getting better. I promise you guys. So take the time and at least do the $9.99 a month over there, just so that you know everything going on recruiting. But for $29.99 until August 31st, I mean, it's just worth it to check out everything that we got going on. And don't forget, the show's brought to you by Westgate Luxury Condominiums right there next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. 1 to 5 bedroom units that go from 900 to 3,000 square feet. The oversized balcony, the Sub-Zero and Wolf kitchen appliances, which are amazing. The parking's great. You got the roof, which is the Skygate Club. It's an awesome tailgate environment. So whether you want to rent, you're coming to town, you can rent those units for the in like RB, what is it, VOB or whatever. You can do that there, or you can buy one. And the way to do that is westgateal.com. All right, well, let's bring him on. Jimmy Stein, final segment of the show. We'll bring in the dean and talk Alabama. Jimmy, is it our Airbnb? That's what it is, right? Airbnb? Sounds like a
VROB.
VROB, okay,
is a thing.
Yeah,
VROB is a thing, and I think Airbnb is a. I think those are two different things.
Well, they're the same thing, right?
They're the same thing, but two different things. I've never used either service, to be honest.
Oh, I have. It's good.
I'm told I should.
Yeah, I'm good. It's good. Yeah, we went to a concert in Atlanta, and with a big group, and then we did that, and we could walk from the Lakewood amphitheater and back, and the traffic was so bad that it turned out to be a blessing, because you get to wait to the last song, and then you could walk back, and you didn't even have to sit in traffic. So it was good.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, but they have it everywhere.
Right.
Like Westgate. Look, you got company coming to town. You want them to do it up right? Tell them westgateal.com, right there next to the stadium.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and there is no more convenient spot in all of Tuscaloosa if you're a football fan.
No, you're right there in the mix. All right, Jimmy. Well, let's get into this. We got a lot to talk about here, and you've thrown a smorgasbord of stuff up to get into today, and I love that, because we can talk a lot of different things. Guys in the comments section, Roll Tide, thank you for being here. And look, if you got a question, throw it up. Maybe we'll get to it tonight. All right, spring practice starts in 1 month from today. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it hasn't really been released by Alabama, but it's easy to do some math and hear some rumors. And, we're not reporting that it's March 20th yet, because we haven't verified that through the university. But it looks like it's going to start around March 20th, which is 4 weeks from today. Couldn't be any more excited. I know to some people it's like, it's spring practice. But the way I look at it is, how big is it that it's the first time that the 2023 football team hits the field together? Now, there'll be additional pieces you add during the summer. This year, it's only 4 or 5 guys. So it really is the football team that we'll play the games with this fall. And they'll be on the practice field for the first time together. And it's the official start of yet another fun quarterback battle. And that's going to be fun, too. And we'll have it all covered for you on Bama Insider. Yeah, look, I was talking to Clint earlier in the show, and I liken this battle to the year that Jalen Hurts ended up at quarterback. And it's different to me than when Tua and Hurts went head-to-head after the national championship win over Georgia, because both guys were experienced, right? We heard about Tua tearing up the number 1 defense in the country during practice. We'd seen Hurts, and then we got a little sample of Tua in the last half of the national championship game. We all know how that turned out. But there were 2 very capable guys, right? This year, I'm not 100% sold on Jalen Milroe's ability to throw the football. We don't know. We haven't seen enough Ty Simpson, although I'm hearing kind of the same things I heard when Tua was in practice, that his ability to throw the football is going to be tough for defenses to stop, and that he can read defenses probably more like Mac Jones than Tua, right? So it's going to be interesting, but I don't know who's going to be the quarterback. Right. Well, I look at two different quarterback battles at Alabama under Saban in terms of comparing it to. I think it's a little bit, or even a lot like, as you said, the Tua versus Jalen battle in 2017 and 2018, and particularly 2018 when Tua beat Jalen out, in the spring and summer, coming off the national championship. It's similar in that way, Mick, because you could sort of say that Jalen Milroe's skill set and his game is similar to Hurts at the same stage. Jalen Milroe today, sort of like Jalen Hurts as a sophomore and junior at Alabama, sort of similar skill sets, both deficiencies and assets. And whereas Ty's game is sort of similar to Tua's, natural passer, 5-star coming out of high school, all the hype. We hadn't seen as much of him as we've seen of the other guy. So in that way, it is a lot like Tua Jalen, but actually it's also a lot like the battle in 2011 between A.J. McCarron and Phillip Sims.
Oh, wow.
And I say that because while neither Ty nor Jalen is similar to A.J. or Sims, that was the last time we had a battle at Alabama where we really hadn't seen either kid very much. I mean, neither one had been a starter. Phillip Sims hadn't played in games at all. A.J. had played very little in some garbage time. And they had a true battle in the spring, summer, and fall. I remember back then I wasn't in the media. I was able to go to a couple of practices. And I remember at one practice thinking Sims was ahead. And then in another practice thinking AJ was ahead.
Right.
And then talking to sources, and it sounded like Sims was ahead. And then it sounded like AJ was ahead. And then you go into the games and what happened. I mean, in the first game, AJ played part of the game and Sims played part of the game. And they used that first game as kind of like the final battle. And in it, apparently, AJ had moved just ahead. And then AJ played the whole game the next week at Penn State. And that's when you knew AJ had sort of won the job. But you didn't really know until game 2, really, that it was going to be McCarron. This battle reminds me of that. Again, not that the quarterbacks are analogous to AJ or Phillip Sims. It's just that this is the first battle since then where really we haven't seen a whole lot of either kid, and anyone can win it. When it was Jalen versus Tua, Jalen had already quarterbacked the team to 2 national championship appearances. Tua had already, at the end of 2017, had won a national championship game with a big throw. I mean, both of those kids were more proven going into 2018, where, you were going to be comfortable with either one. This is just a different situation where we're not sure because we haven't seen Milroe or Ty win multiple games, although we have seen Milroe, he basically is 2-0. He did most of the heavy lifting in that Arkansas game, even though Bryce started it.
Yeah, look, I was thinking like Hurts' first game. What was it? Cooper Bateman started the game against USC.
Yeah, Blake Barnett, actually. I think Blake Barnett.
Yeah, it was Blake Barnett. That's right. Another
Right.
guy that has disappeared in the annals of recruiting and then played, and then we never saw him again. And then Hurts took over. But I wasn't sure with either one of those guys what we were going to get. And so I guess that's why this one, I don't really know what to expect here.
That's a great point. And it is a lot like that because no one had played. We hadn't seen Barnett yet. We'd seen Bateman very, very little and had not seen Hurts at all, who was a true freshman. As we sit here today, Mick, I mean, who knows what's going to happen. As we sit here today, I think Ty Simpson's going to win the job.
So do I.
And I think the battle is going to look like 2011.
Yeah.
Or even 2016, the season you bring up, where I don't know that it's going to be completely obvious to everyone before Middle Tennessee as to who's going to take the first snap. And it might not be settled much like 2011 until week 2, until you play Texas, like who's going to be the guy. I would think or hope it would be settled, at that point. But I think it could look like 2011 in that way.
Yeah, it's exciting. I can't wait. Look, just to wrap it up, I can't wait for practice. I can't wait for the 8A game. This is going to be one of the best that we've had in a long time, just because there are unanswered questions and there's a ton of talent over there. All right, talking about ton of talent, let's talk about the basketball team. Nate Oates' basketball team. They're number 2 in the country now, right? But it doesn't matter. The playoff committee put out who would be the number 1 overall seed, and it'd be Alabama if the season ended right now, which is kind of weird that they did that. What a shellacking they put on Georgia Saturday, coming back off of a tough loss on the road to Tennessee. And they're closing in on an SEC championship, and I think that's really something.
Yeah, I think they're sort of riffing off of what football does. You know, with the college football playoff rankings, they start releasing them what was about the first Tuesday in November, roughly. They start saying, hey, here's our football playoff seedings or rankings as they sit today, to kind of build some drama, let the public know kind of what they're seeing and what they're thinking at that point. And I guess the committee in basketball is doing something real similar here. It's like releasing, hey, here's what the top looks like today, but it is going to change as we get more and more results, more and more data comes in. What's interesting to me, though, making kind of fun is for Alabama fans, is the timing of all this stuff, right? Saturday is when the rankings come out, about the committee seedings come out Saturday morning, right? Well, Alabama had already played Wednesday night and lost, yet the committee says, we don't care about that. Alabama's still number one overall. So since the committee has said Alabama is number one, the only thing Alabama's done is won a game by 1,000,000 points against Georgia. And they're very likely to win Wednesday against South Carolina. So I think due to the timing of when all this stuff has come out, Alabama's actually in good shape with the committee. But the poll, which comes out Monday to Monday, definitely took into account Alabama's loss on Wednesday night and determined that was worthy of dropping Alabama to second. But I think the committee, just because of the timing, they go Saturday to Saturday instead of Monday to Monday. Hey, Alabama's done nothing but won since the committee put Alabama at one. So I suspect that in the ranking that really counts here, Mick, that's the tournament committee's ranking. Alabama's going to be number one again on Saturday. I can't imagine that Alabama has fallen because they beat Georgia by 1,000,000 points and are likely to win a road game Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how good the SEC is. I mean, I know Alabama's good. Brandon Miller, best freshman, at least one of the best freshmen of all time. I mean, there's like a handful of guys. Hollywood, you could throw him in that mix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Colin Sexton. Yeah, I mean, like there's been not many guys, right? There's like three guys that have scored that many points. But this isn't just the Brandon Miller show. I mean, you're talking about a ton of other guys that get in there and play. You know, Sears can play, Quinterly off the bench. Griffin's good. I mean, like there's just so many different guys. You know, Reese, I mean, this team is really deep. And I think that's what makes them dangerous.
Yeah, when you look back, it's great. It's a great point you're making, Mick, because if you look back, you know, that Sexton team, the 1 year Sexton was here, that was a good team. They made it the NCAA tournament, actually won a game. They were a good team. No question. Only good teams make it to the NCAA tournament. Only good teams win as many games as that team won, but they weren't deep. They were just Sexton and some pretty good players, but they weren't hugely deep. That team coached by Avery Johnson. James Robinson, when he played as a freshman, he was playing with Latrell Sprewell. He's playing with Robert Horry. That starting lineup probably pretty comparable to what Alabama's got right now in NATO. It's that starting lineup. But I was in school during those years, so I knew the team really well, and I remember those teams really well. They weren't deep. They only played about 6 or 7 guys, and they'd have to play them 38, 40 minutes. It just wasn't deep. This is 10 and even 11 guys deep. Nick Pringle was the 11th player a lot of the year. And at times this past Saturday, he looked like the best player on the floor.
I know.
So this team, that's what separates this team from those teams. Yes, Alabama's had stars in the past. They've had stars like Miller, not quite as good. I think Brandon Miller's the best player that's ever played here. But James Robinson was a heck of a freshman. Colin Sexton, one heck of a freshman and a lottery pick. Brandon Miller probably better than those guys, but what Brandon's really got is a better team around him than those guys had, deeper than that James Robinson bunch, and frankly, just a better team than that Colin Sexton team under Avery Johnson.
Look, I think it's really important that this team plays well, though, on the road, particularly down the stretch, right? They're murderers row in Tuscaloosa. You know, I mean, like, who wants to come and play them in Coleman, right? But they've got to go on the road and play better. Tennessee, they didn't look good. They couldn't score. They were missing shots. They kind of worry me a little bit. Obviously, Oklahoma, I guess it's a mulligan at this point, but I still saw it. And they played great at Houston, right? Number 2 team in the country. But I feel like if they're going to legitimately be a Final Four team, that the shooting has got to get more consistent on the road. And I think the South Carolina game is a good opportunity against a team that maybe isn't that good to do that.
Right. Yeah, you can get more comfortable, and that's the thing. Alabama's going to have to get extremely comfortable playing away from Coleman, because everything that's really going to count for this team won't be in Coleman. Now, it might be maybe you've played your way to the point that a couple of those games might be in Birmingham, which is nice, but it is away from home, and it's not the gym you practice in. It's not the gym you play in. It's not 15,000 Alabama fans. So it is big that the team get more comfortable playing away from Coleman. And like the struggle games have been away from Coleman, definitely Oklahoma, definitely Tennessee recently, even Gonzaga game. Ironically, they lost to Birmingham and UConn in a tournament way back in November. But they've been fantastic. The South Carolina game is a great comfort game. Then at A&M to end the season, that's a real test. A&M has been fantastic in the SEC season. Their record is basically just as good as Alabama's. If they keep on winning, that game will be for the SEC championship. Perhaps I believe the SEC gives out co-championships for teams that are tied, but it'll still feel a little hollow, right? If Alabama and Texas A&M tie at the top for the SEC, but A&M won head-to-head, it'll feel a little hollow to have that championship. But hey, the rules.
Yeah,
the
right.
rules say if you're tied for first, you're a co-champion. That's not Alabama's rule. That's the league rule that everybody's agreed to. But nevertheless, what I think Alabama fans are hopeful is that A&M will lose one more game before you get to the end. Therefore, should Alabama fall short in that last game, A&M won't be taking a part of that SEC championship away from Alabama. But for that to happen, A&M most likely would have to lose a road game at Mississippi State. But as we were just talking about, it's hard to win games on the road in this league.
Yeah.
And I anticipate A&M will have a tough time beating a good Mississippi State team in Starkville. Alabama barely won that game. It's, I think, the closest SEC game Alabama's played all year that they didn't lose.
Yeah.
Was the game at Starkville.
Right. I think they have some tough games. They play Tennessee as well. I don't think they're as good as they've played, but you know what? I mean, looking at their record, it's a great opportunity for this team to focus on these road games and get better, because to win the championship, even though you're in a neutral site, you're still not on your home court, right? So you got to play well there. And I'd love to see these guys make a run. And so I'm excited. So it starts with South Carolina. Obviously, Auburn coming to Tuscaloosa. That'll be a battle. That's not going to be easy. But you're right. You circle that one at the end of the season. And even if it's not for the SEC, I hope Alabama goes in there and gives them their best. When they've been focused on the opposition, they've done pretty good. But the Tennessee game, they can get D'd up, and they've got to make more shots when they get into those spots. I guess we're nitpicking at this point because it's been a fantastic run. And I think the reason why is that we think this team has a chance to win a championship.
They really have. They really do. And I've never said that before. I think I've said on our show here, Mick, is that Alabama's been good in my lifetime a lot. They were good a lot. They made the Sweet 16 like 4 years in a row under Wimps Anderson. They made the NCAA tournament 5 years in a row under Mark Gottfried. I've seen Alabama ranked number one. I remember when that happened in 2002. I've seen Alabama win the SEC. I've seen Alabama play great games in the NCAA tournament, make an Elite Eight run. The Avery Johnson, Colin Sexton team was good. Nate's team 2 seasons ago was really, really good. One of the best teams in Alabama history. And while I was too young to remember the 76 team, I certainly know a lot about it and I've heard a lot about it and would agree that maybe that's Alabama's best team, but before this one. But this is Alabama. It's the best team I've seen. And even when Alabama made it to all those consecutive Sweet 16s under Wimps Anderson, I never once during that run, Mick, and I know you remember it too, I never once during that run said out loud or thought to myself, we may have the best team in the country.
Nope.
I never thought that. I thought Alabama was good and maybe Elite Eight good, maybe even get to the Final Four good, maybe. But I never said, this may be the best team in the whole country. I have felt that several times this season with this Alabama team, that they may be the best team in the country and they may win it all. I've never said that in my cognizant lifetime of being an Alabama basketball fan. So for that reason alone, I think it's settled. In terms of the regular season, this is the best Alabama basketball team I've ever seen.
Yeah, they were. I used to think of those wimp teams that they were dangerous because they could beat anyone. Yeah. But to beat anyone in consecutive games in the tournament, I never had a lot of confidence that they could do that. This team has the potential to do that because look, they're tough. That 4 overtime game against North Carolina at the beginning of the season, it really shows the character that these guys have. But those road games, Jimmy, I look at them and I'm like, I don't know how good the SEC is, and that's why the toughest games you have, you need to be using those to sharpen the stone.
Yeah, Wimp's teams were so good defensively. They were fantastic defensively, and that's why they were so dangerous in the postseason, because they would shut anybody down. I mean, the defense was so good, but in the end, where they would end up a little short or end up not super elite is because they sort of lack firepower. Even a team with Sprewell and Horry and James Robinson, 3 first-round picks, it wasn't like they were scoring 98 out there. Yeah. I mean, they were still committed to Wimp Sanderson's defense, still out-athleting teams, still taking a lot of good shots. So what this current team is under Nate, they're sort of like those Wimp teams in the sense that they're really good defensively. No one scored more than 69, I think, on them in the SEC. Maybe one team. I'm not sure where that streak is, but they're really good defensively, but they have the firepower. It's not there 100% of the time, but it's there most of the time. This team can score. Look what they just did with 106 or whatever against Georgia. It take those Wimp teams 2 games to score 106 points.
I know.
That's awesome. What this team's got. Suffocating defense and firepower to go with it on the other end. That's why they might win the whole thing.
Man, love it. It's going to be fun filling out a bracket this year. I can tell you that. Oh, yeah. Jimmy, mark my words, Alabama will make the tournament.
You're 1 for 1.
We couldn't say that every year.
You're 1 for 1 already with your basketball predictions for March.
There's a thing they do during spring training in Arizona. All the media people, you put your alma mater down in a basketball pool. You can only take your school. So I do it every year just because I just, and I never think I'm going to win, right? Now it's like, look, man, I mean, that $10 could turn into, $200 with these guys. They just got to got to roll it out. It'd be like, what's his name? Went to North Carolina, and it's like, you go to North Carolina, you got a good chance of, of winning the thing. So
you're the one walking tall in that, in the media room in Arizona at spring ball out there.
Yeah, with the way that this team is. Yeah. All right, well, let's talk some baseball and softball. Not Major League, but Alabama. The Crimson Tide off to a good start baseball-wise. Softball, I thought kind of up and down. I mean, lost some games, but played some tough competition. Let's start with baseball, and then let's pivot to softball. Your thoughts on baseball?
Yeah, 3-0, and look, 3 blowout wins over Richmond, the Spiders. So let's not get carried away, and no one is getting carried away. I mean, you'd be crazy to be getting carried away. It's 3 impressive wins over a team that plays in a smaller conference and is still a 500 type team, or at least they were a year ago. It's not Richmond, so there's no logical reason for anyone to go ahead and proclaim that this Alabama baseball team is great. But I will say this, if this Alabama team is great, then they would have looked like they did this weekend because they played like a great team plays this weekend. A great team would beat Richmond basically 14-1, 3 games in a row, which is basically what this team did. They pitched well, they played defense, and they crushed the ball for 3 straight days. And hey, it's a fun start. What does it mean? It might mean a lot. It may mean nothing.
Yeah.
You got to play more games and more good teams before you know. But the earliest returns are very promising. And what I do like about this team, much like basketball in one way, there's a lot of depth here. There's a lot of hitters. It's going to take some time to find the best 9 because there's 12, 13, 14 candidates, which is a good problem to have. And the pitching, while it isn't super, Tennessee's got 2 pitchers that are going to be first-round picks. Alabama doesn't have that. But what Alabama's got, Mick, is they've got about 8 or 9 quality arms. This is a deep, deep team with pitching and hitting. There's a lot of contributors. They do lack huge stars. They do lack the obvious first team all SEC guy type thing. But the depth of contributors is really promising.
Yeah, get out there and support baseball. One of the nice stadiums in the state and in the country now for Alabama. And a lot of returners from last year. Coaching staff, not only do they know baseball, but they're really good guys too. They represent the school and the way that you would want to be represented. And I wish them well. I really think that this team has a chance to surprise people because of the fact that it's like the entire team comes back from last year. So that experience ought to help them. All right, let's talk softball. We expect Pat Murphy to have this team in the World Series every single year. Maybe that's unfair with the expectations. They have maybe their best player of all time. And then they lose the first game of the season to kind of a nobody, and you're like, wait, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah, the loss to Lehigh to open the season was very disappointing because you worry going in, hey, this team might not be as good as some of the other Pat Murphy teams. So now you've already got a bad loss, and then you could kind of feel this uh-oh thing happening. Then they go to this tournament or this event where the field is just impossible. It's sort of like the College World Series. This field is full of some of the great teams in the sport, and they're all down there going into, I'll be totally honest, I thought 3-2, in the 5 games would be good. Like, man, if they can just go down there and come back 3-2, I'll feel like, hey, over time they can put it together and be pretty good. Instead, they go down there and they come back, they're 4-1. And frankly, they were really competitive in the one game they lost to number 2 UCLA. First 4 hitters, first 3 get on, 4th girl hits a home run. UCLA wins the game from there. But from that point on, Alabama sort of outplayed UCLA from the 5th hitter in the game on until the 7th. I mean, Alabama looked really competitive against UCLA in the game they lost. But, boy, they beat Florida State. Montana Fouts, when it's one of her best performances in her career, that's saying a lot because she really is the GOAT as far as Alabama's softball program goes, as far as pitching goes. This team is really good. I don't know that they're as good as some of Patrick Murphy's best teams. I don't know that they have the depth of pitching beyond Montana. But the hitting is promising because there's so many new hitters, freshmen, that look good early on. And I think this team is going to be, let's say, highly competitive. I think it's a postseason team, and it's a team in the postseason that when Montana's, in the circle, they can beat anyone, anywhere. I think it'll be tough, though, to advance in the postseason with only Montana as someone they can trust to be a shutdown pitcher against great teams. So the real question for the softball team is developing a number 2 pitcher, somebody that can take some of the load off of Montana once the postseason gets here. They do have some girls that have looked good. Lauren Essman, a portal transfer from Michigan. Mick, she threw a complete game shutout against Indiana. Now, that's unranked Indiana Hoosiers, again, not elite, but that's promising.
Yeah, look, I'm wondering if Montana Fouts is going to be able to have another one of those seasons like she did a few years ago, where, I mean, she was the best player in the country, in my opinion. Last year, a little more hittable. And I don't know enough about softball. I mean, I know that you throw a lot of innings, and I've broadcasted games over there in the past. I think a lot of the program. But, yeah, I mean, there's going to have to be some other players that step up, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's not people that are baseball fans that are new to softball. I think they get more frustrated with the amount of innings somebody like a Montana will throw, which is just forget all those rules about baseball, about 100 pitches, or there's only so many innings every 4 or 5 days. It's not like that at all. It's a different set of rules in terms of how you govern someone's arm and how many innings they can go. But that said, it can't be Montana every inning of every game. That'll never work. So developing depth in the pitching staff, that's the key to this team achieving great things. But just as they are today, Mick, they're going to be a tough out for anybody. The SEC is a really tough conference. There's several teams that are very good. Florida, Arkansas, Georgia, LSU. These are all really good teams. But hey, this Alabama team's real competitive. They're going to make it a fun season in terms of winning games and being in the thick of things. In terms of winning it all, they'll just go as far as Montana can take them right now.
Yeah, look, the SEC has been the best conference in softball. I mean, look, I'm not saying that others aren't good, but they've been, the best. And then you're adding Florida and, you're adding Texas and Oklahoma. And all of a sudden it's like,
Ridiculous.
It may be tougher to win the SEC than the national championship eventually.
Yeah, I think that's kind of overlooked. I mean, all the focus is football, football, football. And hey, I'm a football guy too. First and foremost, I'm a football guy. So that's my primary focus. But what's a little overlooked is how good Oklahoma and Texas are at everything. They're very good in basically every sport. And so is the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a heck of a marriage there when it comes to softball, baseball, even basketball, gymnastics, all of it. Oklahoma and Texas are good at all of it. And gosh, this conference has been so tough for so long is now about to go from tough to near impossible.
Yep. I hear that. Well, look, Jimmy, it's always great hanging out with you. People know, and if they don't, I'm going to tell them again that you are constantly hanging out on the message board, BamaInsider.com. You're not going to get a comment on there and slip it by you. You're there and you're ready. Tell everyone what you got going on at BamaInsider.com.
I do read it all. I've recently, I know this sounds hard to believe because we have lots of subscribers, lots of comments, but I believe I've read every post ever posted on that board, every single one of them. I don't think I've ever not seen one. I'm there all the time. It's what they, it's what I want to do. It's what they basically hired me to do. And I enjoy it because I like talking ball all day, and I like talking Alabama football all day, basketball. Hey, you want to talk about baseball, softball? I'm your guy too. So come to the message board and let's just talk ball. We covered a lot of stuff today. I was in big football mood today. It's because I woke up I'm like, it's 1 month till spring practice.
Crazy.
It's just 1 month. So I got really excited about this team. I'm doing a countdown. I ranked the whole roster 1 to 60. The spring roster, I mean, who's the best player, who's second best, who's third best, and we're counting down, obviously starting at 60 to make it exciting. And I think we're in the mid 40s now, and I'm doing that every day. And that's a great discussion point, discussing 3 players that will be out there for spring practice every day. We can get really in depth when you're just talking about 3 a day. So that's been a lot of fun. But yeah, come to the message board and let's talk some ball.
You guys can join right now, BamaInsider.com On3. Now that we're part of On3, $29.99 until August 31st, as we try to give you the best possible Alabama coverage, the best possible team coverage that anyone's ever given anywhere. That's what our goal is, and Jimmy's part of that, and this show's all about that.
Yeah, and when Clint and I we're going to do a football answer thing soon too. That's going to be a lot of fun where you get to ask questions and you'll hear both from me and Clint on the board about that.
Awesome. Well, look, been fun hanging out. Again, like and subscribe, Bama Insider YouTube channel. When you hang out with us here, Monday Night Quarterback, we do this every Monday. And this isn't the only show. Look, anytime that Nate Oates speaks, Nick Saban speaks, we're going to have that for you on here, the press conferences. We're going to take care of any breaking news, someone transfers in, someone leaves, we'll be covering spring practice every day, after the games, before the games, right here, BamaInsider.com, the YouTube channel, like and subscribe. And look, we're trying to get to over 100,000 subscribers. We're on the way to do that because of you guys. So thank you for being here tonight. Message board, you guys have been awesome to hang out with as always. And that about does it for us. Let me thank Chris Daughtry behind the scenes for, as always, doing a fantastic job of helping us get the show on the air. And for Clint Lamb and Joseph Hastings and Jimmy Stein, and, of course, Kyle Henderson, who is the guy that puts everything together on YouTube, and the entire On3 crew. I'm Mick Gillespie. We'll do it again next Monday night. Thanks, guys, and roll tide.